So that actually, it has got a very short section in Unit 1, but I think Block 2 Unit 1 is completely Pearson R. So I thought I'll take it in detail itself so that we can cover the Unit 1 of Block 2. Um, so instead of just giving introduction and leaving it here, I'll take Pearson R completely. That's what I was thinking. Okay, so in a way, we are covering Block 2 Unit 1. So that's exactly what we are going to cover today. Okay, but in the process, that tiny bit of Unit 1 that is mentioned in parametric and non-parametric, that will be covered. Because that is only introduction of Pearson R. Then this goes into the detail of Pearson R. Okay, so so let me tell first tell what exactly the is about. So when there is a concept called as correlation that you would find between these two, so that you really understand what is the relationship between these two. Okay. I can actually hear some background noise. I think if it would be good if everybody goes on mute.
Raksha and Saujanya, can you go on mute, please? Shilpa, Raksha, and Saujanya.
So is there any way that I can mute all the participants? Yeah, probably Ritika can mute, I guess. Not sure. Okay. So nevertheless,
Are you looking for me?
no,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Could you
I
mute
mean,
everyone?
can you mute all the participants
Yeah,
once?
it's better to
Yes.
mute
There is
all.
a background
You know
noise
what?
that I
I
could
can
hear.
make you a co-host. Wait, so that you can also control. Because my dog just got a seizure attack. I think she got super excited by saying "oh." So mute all. And where are you? You are also mute, Praveen. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I unmuted. I realized.
And I made you host. Okay, so all controls are under you right now. All right. You're the host now, Praveen. I think his network is gone.
Okay, thanks. That should be okay. Okay, so anyway, thanks for that. So continuing, right? I mean, when exactly this Pearson R is used? So when you are actually trying to
Praveen,
analyze two variables,
Praveen, I'm sorry. You have to record this recording. I am because I'm not a host, so I don't have any power to
I
do it.
can see,
It's a
I
recording.
can see that recording is on
Oh, okay, okay, perfect.
already.
Okay,
So
then
yeah,
let it be.
so I can pause and stop whenever I want. So yeah, it
All
is
right.
already on. I can see that.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, what I was saying is, whenever you are trying to analyze two parameters and trying to establish a relationship between two parameters, there is a measure that you actually, you can measure how related are these two variables. So that measurement is called as correlation, right? So Pearson is one of the methods that we use to find the correlation. There are other ways of finding the correlation as well, but Pearson is the one of the most famous uh, uh, method to actually do that. As we observed earlier as well, right? All statistics, it is not one shot solution in all the conditions. So there are assumptions. There is a type of data. There are few conditions that it has to met. It has to meet before you
Wait, I'll
choose
get my
Pearson
book
R,
and
right? Similarly, even Pearson R does have certain assumptions, which I'll anyway go through it. Uh, but even before going into Pearson R, uh, I'm going to introduce what this correlation is and what these various
it's
terms that are used
1.3.
here. would really, would really mean, right? So, as I said, right, I mean, correlation is the measure of relationship between two variables. So,
You got it?
there is another name that you would actually, you can actually see in the book
Hmm.
as bivariate analysis. Bivariate analysis is nothing but you are actually taking two variables and analyzing those two variables. So there are various things that you analyze, like how strongly they are correlated, what is the direction that they go, whether if one increases, the other decreases, or whether if one increases, the other also increases. So the direction and strength of the relationship. There are various things that can be measured. So typically, this correlation coefficient, the range of the correlation coefficient is between +1 and -1. So there is a range. So let's say you can say that a correlation coefficient between the ice cream sales and temperature of the day, right? So you can compare how temperature of the day is really affecting the sales of ice cream, and you can give a coefficient to just tell how much this temperature is related to the ice cream sales, right? And this number is the coefficient of correlation, and that typically falls between +1 to -1. So it goes like +1, 0.8, 0.6, 0.50, and it can be -0.2, -0.4, up to -1, right? So this when I say that it varies from +1 to -1. One means they are very strongly correlated. That means if one is changing, the other is changing in the similar way. So this one and -1 are very, very strong correlations. Zero means they are not
Praveen, just a
correlated at
minute.
all.
Praveen, Sindhu,
Yeah.
could you kindly mute yourself? There's a lot of disturbance. Sindhu,
I've done that.
thank you.
So one means both parameters are very strongly correlated. Zero means both parameters are not at all correlated. So the lesser the coefficient is, the lesser the strength of relationship is, right? So that's what the coefficient of correlation really means. And what is +1 and what is -1 then? So it indicates the direction. So when we are saying that comparing ice cream sales with the temperature of the day, as temperature increases, sales goes up. So that means direction is positive. So that means correlation is going to be positive. But if it is reverse, right? As temperature increases, let's say, as temperature increases, ice cream sales comes down, then it is a negative correlation. So that means they are both correlated, but in a negative way. So that would be -1. If it is a very strong negative correlation, it would be -1. If it is a very strong positive correlation, it would be +1. So if correlation is less, then it would go tend towards 0. So typically, anything 0.8, 0.7, these are all considered as strong relationship, strongly related itself. So 0.5 and all is okay, and less than that is, you will actually, your relationship is not so high. But very specific to the psychology aspect, what they say is whenever the psychology measures are taken, right, these measures temperature of the day, the the measurement is pretty much very standardized, and it is not prone to errors. Itself becomes a very much challenging, right? So that is why typically what they say is you will hardly find a very strongly correlated parameters. Right? So even a slight correlation is always thought as they are like decently correlated, especially in the context of psychology. It's the context of psychology measures. So not only about the errors in measurement, there are various factors which is leading to this kind of a picture where uh, where in general statistics probably you might really want two parameters to be strongly correlated, but in case of psychology studies, even a slightest correlation is considered as good enough correlation. So there is a very specific aspect of that particular psychology related studies, right? So I hope we are clear on what correlation is. Okay. So so coming to the next one, right? We talked about positive correlation. We talked about negative correlation. Similarly, we talked about no correlation. Next concept is variance. Okay, so so this is again to set the basics. Right? So we talk variance is also of a same thing. Actually, in fact, standard deviation is square root of variance. So variance indicates how varied your data is. Right? Remember, we had a, a normal distribution, and we do a line in the mean, and we told that okay, yes, we are trying to actually plot things in the graph to see how far these individual readings are from the central line, to give a picture on how varied the data is, right? So variance is giving how varied your results are. So in case if it is not of too much variance, right? I mean, if no, again, let's say height in the Karnataka, average height in Karnataka. Let's say if everything is falling under the same peak, that means if it is very near to the peak of your normal deviation, then what you are saying is the variance of height within Karnataka is not that much. So that means you don't have variety of heights. So similarly, when the curve is flat, you're saying you have a lot of variety of heights. So even though the mean is so and so, but your variance is very high. That means it is well distributed across that particular normal deviation. It is normal distribution is very flat, right? So just to recap on that, because variance is one of the very key aspect when you are actually calculating the correlation. Okay. So coming to the point, why variance is very important, right? So what we are calculating, we are trying to actually you know, calculating the correlation between two parameters. So one of the very significant assumption, as I said before, right? Every technique or a measurement or whatever that you actually do in statistics, you do it under certain conditions or assumptions, right? I mean, if those assumptions are not met, what you will end up is you are using a wrong technique to measure it. So similarly, in case of Pearson R as well, there are certain assumptions. So first and foremost important assumption in case of Pearson R is your two parameters, whatever that you are actually choosing. So if you plot those particular things in a distribution, then both variables should be normally distributed. Okay. So taking the same example, ice cream sales and temperature of the day. So temperature and also ice cream, if you plot individually, right? These are individuals. So when you are plotting the distribution, you are plotting one particular variable. So if you plot temperature, then it should follow the normal distribution. If you plot, ice cream sales, it should also follow the same, normal distribution. So that is assumption number one. Okay. So if these two variables, even if one variable doesn't follow this bell-shaped curve, what it means is Pearson R is not a right algorithm for you to use. Okay. And the second assumption is these two are linearly related. That means we already spoke about what is linearity, right? I mean, if you draw these particular things in the graph, you are actually either going like this or going down. So it's basically a straight line. So if you draw that particular x and y axis and try to plot that particular curve, they are linearly correlated. So they are not like, okay, as temperature increases. So just to give you an example. So let's say as temperature increases, ice cream sale is going up. Okay. But let's say you observed in such a way that As temperature increases till 40, ice cream sales goes up, and after 40 it is actually falling down. So even for 45, instead of ice cream sales going up, ice cream sales is coming down, let's say. Then what you are doing, you are actually, it is going up and started falling down. So it is not a linear relationship. Okay. So in case of PSNR, what is our assumption to start with is these two are linearly related. If they're not linearly related, then PSNR is not a right fit. Okay. And we also assume homoscedasticity. You remember homoscedasticity, right? I mean, basically, when you are drawing that linear relationship, if points are just around that particular straight line, then that means they are homoscedasticity. If points are falling all around, I hope we remember what the we already spoke about homoscedasticity and heteroscedasticity before, right? So Pearson correlation assumes that these two variables are following homoscedasticity. Right? Three assumptions. One, both variables are normally distributed. Two, they are linearly related. Three, they are following homoscedasticity. Okay. So these three are basic assumptions as far as Pearson correlations are concerned.
Praveen, one question.
Okay. Any yeah.
So the
Go on.
second condition, the linearity, isn't that sufficient condition for the third one, that
Yeah.
homoscedasticity thing? If it's a linear relationship, it will be already homo thingy, right?
No. So what would happen is, yes, perfect linear relationship is homoscedasticity, but when you are actually drawing it, right? So sometimes what happens is the scatteredness might actually increase or vary. Okay, so here you will end up saying that it is linear because you are actually averaging out, but it is not a strong linear relationship. Yes, if you are
Okay.
talking about a strong linear relationship, it is homoscedasticity. If you are if it is a weaker linear relationship, means heteroscedasticity.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So any other doubts till now? I hope you understood correlation. I hope you understood all the conditions under which Pearson correlation is used.
Yes,
Okay.
Praveen.
Yes,
So
Praveen. Go
Pearson,
ahead.
sorry, so Pearson's R is a type of correlation, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. There are other two varieties of correlation. Actually, block 2 is all about correlations. So unit 1 in block 2 is Pearson correlation alone, right? So that means the other units, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4 covers the other things about correlation. So this Pearson R is one type of correlation. And that is under these assumptions, you will choose Pearson correlation. Normally distributed, linearity, homoscedasticity, right? There is another term that you would actually see while you are actually reading it. So it it talks about normal bivariate distribution. So this is another assumption that Pearson correlation really talks about. So when you take these X and Y, whichever you are actually trying to compare, ice cream sales and temperature of the day, when you combinely plot, so we talked about normal distribution, individual variables following a normal distribution, right? And when I plot temperature, it is normally distributed. When I am plotting the sales, it is normally distributed. So there is a technique to combinely plot. Okay. So it is actually, you will find out a probability function of these two variables. And then there is a technique to draw the graph. Right? So there is a terminology that is used as normal bivariate distribution. So when these two variables are combined with plot, then also they should form this normal distribution. So it's that you would have to probably remember when you see this particular term, it is nothing but you are saying that individual variables are following the normal distribution. Okay, the term that they use here is normal bivariate distribution. So what it is talking about is when you combine these two pairs, compute the probability function and draw that probability function, even that really follows the normal distribution is what its intention is. Okay, so it is not a very significant. No, you don't really have to get confused about it. The thumb rule there is normally distributed, normally distributed, normally distributed. X normally distributed, Y normally distributed, XY combined normally distributed. That's all. Okay.
I have one doubt here.
Uh, yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Go on.
Same temperature and example, if I take it. Temperature normally distributed means, for example, normal temperature is say 35. Okay, so occurrence of 36, 37 so far, and here occurrence of 34, 33, those things will be normally distributed. That is the meaning of normally distributed temperature.
No, so I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. So basically what it means is number of days in which the temperature is very, very less. Let's say the temperature is 2 centigrade. In a year, let's say you centigrade. Okay, but when it comes to 4 degrees centigrade, you have like 15 days. Then it comes to 15 degrees centigrade, you have, let's say 100 days. When it comes to 30 degrees centigrade, you have 200 days. So how you are actually plotting the extremes, that is lowest temperature, and this extreme, which is 50 degrees centigrade, highest, has got very less number of days. So the population which falls under, population is number of days in a year here, which falls under lowest temperature, this is 2, and the highest temperature 5 is very, very thin. Most of the days are following the peak. Basically, they are following the 30 degrees centigrade. They are falling under 30 degrees centigrade. So when you plot all the days temperature and trying to put up a frequency distribution there, then they assume that hill kind of a structure.
Okay.
Okay, so that is what it means.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So usually normally distribution really comes when you have a good number of data. I mean, if you have very less number of samples, it is very, very unlikely to get a normal distribution. If you have only 10 days, then what is the difference between highest and lowest? The range would not be very high, so you might not get the heap, right? So normal distribution really comes into picture when you have that kind of huge sample to deal with. Okay, so that is one thing that you need to remember. So we started off with variance. So having given the assumptions of Pearson correlation, I'll go back to variance again and spend some time there. Okay, we talked about variance as telling that how varied the data is when we are drawing this particular normal distribution, right? I mean, how lengthy the peak is, whether it is flat or whether it is high. That is what variance is all about. So how variance is really helping us to find correlation. Correlation is comparing two variables. Variance is only telling how varied my one variable is. Okay, imagine in this way, what exactly we are trying to actually find out. What we are trying to find out is how, if I vary one variable, how the other variable is varying. That is exactly what I am trying to find as a relationship, right? So when I am saying that my temperature really, increases or decreases, ice cream sales is increasing or decreasing. So what I am actually measuring, I am trying to actually find out how variance of one variable is influencing the variance of the other variable. Okay, so the entire Pearson algorithm really depends on this fundamental, where what we are trying to find out is we are trying to find out something called as a covariance. That means what is the overlap of variance between these two parameters, right? So basically there is a variance that parameter 1 really follows. There is a variance that parameter 2 really follows. And when you combine these two, there is some overlap. That means a particular variable's variance is influencing the variance of other variable. The more overlap is, what we are saying is there is more, they are more correlated. Okay. So I hope this point is clear. Okay. So the whole thing, the concept there that comes is the covariance. Covariance is the overlap of variance between, I mean, in our example, the temperature of the day and the sales of the ice cream. Okay, how the variance of these two are influenced is what is called as covariance. Okay, so okay, so the formula of the Pearson R is completely derived from this particular covariance. So you calculate the covariance. So there is a way to calculate the covariance, and you calculate the standard deviations of two. So we'll go through how exactly that can be calculated. I'll try to open the block, and then we can probably go through those particular how exactly the covariance is can be calculated. Right. So so in the exam as well, right, you might really get a question to calculate the Pearson R. So that means the formula here of Pearson R is going to be important. Okay. So that means you will have to really get the, let me share my screen. I'll try to open the unit and then show the formula there. You don't really, you will not get a question to derive this formula. You will rather get a question to, they will give the data and they will ask you to calculate the Pearson R for that particular data. So I will show you. I'll share my screen. Okay. So this is one of the example which is talking about how exactly the linear relationship between the intelligence and scores of a reasoning task really can be correlated, right? It is a linear relationship, not a perfect linear relationship, but there is almost like linear. So it is talking about when exactly this can be found out. Right. So okay, this is exactly is the concept that we are talking about right now, which is covariance. So imagine you have a variable x, which is variance of x and variance of y. You are trying to relate this particular variance. So the covariance is nothing but what is the how x variance is really influencing the y variance. That is exactly what it is, right? So one more point to highlight here, right? One more thing that this particular portion really talks about. We talked about covariance as correlation as a measure to find out the strength of relationship. Let's say if somebody says that my my uh, uh, my correlation, I mean correlation between ice cream sales and the temperature is 0.5 or 0.6, let's say. So we can say that, okay, yes, it is decently related, but not very strongly related. But what this 0.5 is this a percentage? Not really. So basically it is only measured to tell you the strength of relationship. It is not a percentage. But using this particular correlation, you can find the percentage. Okay, what is the percentage is, let's say you are plotting the variance of X, you are plotting the variance of Y. And what you are saying is there is a common portion which you are saying that how variance Y is influenced by variance X. You are saying what is the common portion between these two. So you want to find out how much of entire portion. Say if I combine this particular thing, this particular in this entire portion, maybe that common portion is around 25%, right? So if you want to measure this percentage, that means you want to say that, okay, yes, they are like the covariance or variation, common variation is 25%. Let's say you want to measure the percentage. Then using this Pearson R correlation, you can measure the that particular percentage. So there is a way to measure that particular percentage, and it is again a formula. So basically what you are doing, you calculate the Pearson R and you actually, I hope it is visible, you calculate the Pearson R and you square it and multiply by 100. Let's say Pearson R is 0.5. 0.5 square is 0.25 into 100, that is 25%. So common variance between X and Y is 25%. That's how you can measure percentage. But
So
variance
bigger the
as
number.
such itself is not a percentage.
Okay, sorry. So
Yeah.
bigger the number, bigger the percentage, and bigger the
Covariance.
relationship, stronger. Okay.
Correct. That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, so now getting into the other aspects of the unit, right? So let me just. Okay, we talked about this. So now, when you are actually doing the Pearson R analysis, right? There are factors that are very much important for us to really understand. One is range. Okay, what exactly is all about range? So you are actually, when you are calculating all these things, uh, ice cream sales to the temperature of the day. Let's say you are saying that I'm going to measure uh, this relevance only in certain days where the temperature really varies from this to this. Let's say you are putting a condition and you are trying to trim the range. Then your correlation might really be affected because of it. Because you are not really considering the entire range of values. You are actually trying to trim down and not taking the extremes. That means your findings might not be as reliable or as correct as whatever that you want to be. So general thing is, if you can actually take the entire range, you should actually take the entire range. Okay, but what is the other extreme that you will have to really really be concerned about is there is a concept called as outlier. Okay, so outlier. So what outlier really means is most of it really falls under this range, but there is one extreme, just one point which is not really adhering to my norms. Okay, so let's say you have one such point which is really falling into something else. Normally you are following all the linear curve and there is one point which is outside. Then it is called as an outlier. So basically, if you have such readings as well, then these outliers could also influence this particular correlation. It is better to omit those outliers that you are actually calculating correlation, because that would significantly bring down the correlation instead of really giving a right picture. So at one end, you should really consider the range, good amount of range. And the other end is you should really be concerned about just outliers, which are the points which are like, really not really falling under the pattern. So both could really affect as a factors when you're actually calculating the Pearson R correlation. See, the another point is unreliability of the measurement. So, and this is a very common problem as far as our psychological measurements are concerned, because most of the measurements, like for example, IQ, I don't know how IQ could be a very reliable measure. Uh, so, so there are certain measurements which follow the certain techniques to measure. Let's say your technique of measurement itself is wrong, which is not really giving you the right picture. Let's say the way that you are calculating the IQ itself is wrong, and you are trying to find out the relationship between intelligence and score of a paper, right? Then obviously, even if you get out the results saying that, okay, intelligence is related to the score of the paper, actually your finding might be wrong, because the way you calculated intelligence itself is wrong, where you measured it itself is wrong. So how relationship can be, coming correct, right? So method of measuring a particular variable is a very, very important aspect when you are trying to find the relationship. And there is a terminology there which is called as disattenuated correlation. What this attenuated correlation means is you are saying that my correlation is very, very appropriate because my measurement is very reliable. Correlation which is out of a very reliable measurement is disattenuated correlation. Okay, otherwise your correlation is attenuated. Basically, your correlation is having certain error because your measurement itself is having certain error. Okay, and curvilinearity. Okay, curvilinearity is nothing but it is talking about that one. You remember one of the assumptions here is linearity. Okay, so if your thing is not falling as a linear one, and it has got a slight curve, or if this curve is really more, and still you are assuming that they are linearly related, then as the entire concept of correlation here, Pearson's correlation stands on linearity. You are really measuring it incorrect. Okay, so 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 you have to remember that the curvilinearity has to be less. You can't have a perfect linearity, so there could be a slight curve, but this curve should not be very major. So these are all the factors to remember as far as the Pearson correlation is concerned. Okay. Uh, significance testing of R. So there is a block which talks about the significance testing of R. So remember, we talked about a concept where you have a population and you're trying to measure all these things based on certain samples. Because you can't really measure for the entire population. You are trying to actually, let's say you're trying to measure amount of food eaten versus height somebody is growing, let's say, right? You can't really measure for all of the population. You are going to take a sample and measure it. So now sampling and measuring it has got, it is prone to error, because if you don't sample it right, you are going to actually end up getting wrong conclusions. So now in case of correlation as well, the same sampling error could be applied. So basically what you are saying is, depending upon where that I sample, my correlation results could vary. Okay. So there are techniques, there are various ways to measure and cancel this particular sampling error, and that is exactly what you're trying to actually measure the significance of R, and you're trying to actually find out what is the error and deviation of R by comparing two samples, and then you come up with the saying that, okay, yes, this is the error of R kind of a thing. Okay, in our blog which talks about this. Yes, but But what it is ultimately as a concept is you are trying to actually find out those sampling efforts and uh, trying to you know reduce it. And the one thing that when it comes to this particular sampling errors, the one thing that if you remember in the last class we talked about that no, while we are trying to actually find out errors in the sample, if you remember, there is a central tendency and the other things that we talked about, where when you plot these means of each sample, even that mean would really follow the normal distribution, right? If you remember, and then based on that particular normal distribution, assuming that the samples are also following normal distribution, we calculate what is the error of standard deviations and other things. So what is the error of mean is how it is done. But their assumption is but in case of Pearson R, when you plot Pearson R, whatever, if you take multiple samples and plot all samples R correlation, you have 100 samples and you have calculated R for all 100 samples and you are trying to plot. Right? In case of R doesn't follow normal distribution. Okay, so it actually there are techniques which R fits under the T distribution, so T sampling and other things are utilized. Uh, so the significance testing of R is not straightforward, but we don't really have to really go into details of all this particular distribution in our unit. So basically, you just have to understand what the significance testing is of R is. So that's exactly what. So coming to the things that you should actually remember, right? So as I said, right, in the paper, you might end up getting questions related to the Pearson R. That is, they might ask you to solve certain problems giving the data, saying that, okay, yes, this is the data, you please calculate Pearson R, right? So for that, you would really have to know the formula of Pearson R. R is nothing but the covariance. So there is covariance that we need to calculate divided by standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. I'll show you the sample problem to really how to tell you how exactly this can be solved. Okay. So basically, no, first calculate covariance and then calculate standard deviation of x, standard deviation of y, and divide covariance with standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. There is other formula as well, but ultimately that the other formula is nothing but expanding this itself in this way and trying to find the mathematical way, and then there is another way to calculate it. But I believe calculating in the straightforward way is easy. So this formula is quite easy when compared to the raw formula. So there is a section which talks about calculating using raw formula. But even that formula is only mathematically divided. For example, x minus x, x dash into y minus y dash. When you expand it, it can actually follow that xy minus x dash y minus. You can actually expand it in a mathematical way, right? I mean, I hope people remember that the equations can be expanded and then canceling the terms and all those stuff. So once you put all the formulas of standard deviation of x, standard deviation of y, and also covariance of xy, you can actually cancel out and derive the end formula. And that end formula is raw calculation. Okay, but there is nothing as a concept that you will have to understand. You just have to see the formula and remember it. Okay. Okay, so we talked about that sampling error, right? So once you remove the sampling error, uh, and then try to calculate R, which is Pearson correlation. It is called as adjusted R adjusted. So basically, R is adjusted to remove the sampling error. So there is a formula for that as well, right? This R is the uh, uh, R calculated for one sample, and N is number of items within that particular sample. So using these two, you can calculate how much R needs to be adjusted for the sampling error. So this is the formula for adjusted R. This is the formula other than remembering this particular formula, because ultimately you will have to solve the problem. Once you see the problem, you might really feel easy to remember this formula as well, because it is pretty straightforward. Covariance, standard deviation. That's all you would really require to remember as far as formula is concerned. Covariance divided by standard deviations of both. Okay. So I'll show you the one of the problems here. Okay. So can you see this particular thing? Okay. So I'll explain what this table is. So typically your problem would come saying that, okay, yes, there is a X, okay, there is a X, there is a Y. So you can assume that only the first
Praveen.
three columns is the
Praveen, sir.
yeah.
Praveen, are you showing the PDF or the PPT?
Yes, I am showing the PDF. Sorry, I will share it. Sorry. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so if you see, there is a table here.
I don't have it. Page number?
Hello.
30. No, 13.
Page number 17.
Page number 17, yeah. Page number 18, rather. In block 2 PDF.
Page number 18.
Block 2 PDF.
This is a block 1 I have.
Okay, so when you get,
Block 2.
this is block 2. Block 2. Pearson R is all block 2 unit 1. Okay, so it is section 1.3.3.
Praveen, that SX seems to be wrong, no?
What?
How did that 4.16 come?
What is that?
How did the 4.16 come?
4 point?
SX.
4.16. Where are you seeing?
Scroll down.
Okay, I'll talk about it. Yeah, I'll talk about it. So here 4.16. See, so imagine I'll explain this particular table, okay, so that everybody really understands how it can be calculated. You have a X, you have a Y. So you have a table saying that, okay, for first reading, and if X value is 11, Y value is 13. For the second reading, you have X value as 13, Y value as 16. For the third reading, you have 16, 14. So you have 10 such readings. That means you have 10 readings that you can analyze and calculate your Pearson R. Okay?
Depression inventory. This is back depression inventory. Hopelessness.
Yeah, don't worry about that. So basically it is talking about hopelessness and depression. Okay, how you are going to correlate between these two. For our understanding, it is any X and any Y. Need not to be a hopelessness and depression. So any two variables, imagine we have 10
15 is equal to 2.
samples, and you have your reading one. And now for X, so the formula, you remember the formula? Formula that you will have to calculate is, you will have to calculate the covariance, you will have to calculate the standard deviation of X, standard deviation of Y. Covariance divides by standard deviation of X and standard deviation of Y. So now, how you are going to calculate standard deviation of X? Standard deviation is nothing but you have a mean. Okay, mean is this X dash. Okay, so just concentrate on X now. Forget about Y. Okay, so if you calculate mean of all this X, so that means how mean of all? Add all the X, you got 110 divided by number of samples, which is 10. So mean, that is average of X, is 11. Okay, you can see me highlighting it, right? So just concentrate on what I am highlighting it. Don't worry about the other parts of the table to start with. So what you did, you are calculating just the average of x. Okay. And then you are trying to find variance of the variance of x. So that means this column, the first, the column 4, is calculating how x is deviated from its mean. In the first reading, average is, mean is 11 is what we calculated here when we added up and found the thing. And here the value is also 11. That means it is not at all deviated. That means it is 0. But the second reading is 13. So what is the difference between mean and that is 2. In case of 16, difference between mean and that is 5. So basically you are trying to find how varied your data is from the mean. Okay. So, so now once you found out the variance, you're going to sum all the variations that you have, and you are going to square it. You are going to square it and sum. So basically, here one is negative, the one is positive. Now, in order to remove this negative, because variance is variance, variability is variability, whether it is -2 or +2, it doesn't matter. That is why what we do, we find the square of this. So see this particular column. Okay, this particular column is only squaring this particular value to remove that negativeness. So that you can get the real variation as far as the reading is concerned. And then you sum all of it, you will get the variance, which is 156. This is sum of all the variance. And now you find the average of it. That means 10 samples are there, divided by 10. So it is 15.6. Okay, ideally is the no the is the is supposed to be the variance or rather the variance of this particular thing. Standard deviation is nothing but it is square root of whatever the variance. The square root of 15.6 would be the standard deviation of x. Okay, perhaps your observation is right. Here it is not 4.16 that needs to come, because 15.6 square root, either the sum is wrong or else this square root is calculated incorrect. So it seems to be a printing error here. Ideally speaking, it is square root of 15.6 that should come. That the sum here is 156.
It will be 3.9.
I am finding the variance of x, variance of y. What is that? Yeah, I'm finding I'm finding the variance of x. I'm finding the variance of y, and from that I am deriving the standard deviation of x, and I am deriving the standard deviation of y. Okay, and then I am finding the covariance of x and y. So I am finding individual, first of all, this is individual, x variance, y variance, and then combinedly x and y variance. Okay, x minus x dash is mean of x, y dash mean of y. So you are finding the covariance of all these things. Covariance is also, you are summing up, okay, and then you are dividing it by 10. Okay, so that is what is the covariance of it. So, and then you will find the variance of or Pearson R between x and y. So it is very, very straightforward and easy. You are finding the variance of x, you are finding the variance of y, you are finding the covariance of x and y. Okay, so how you are finding for all readings, you are doing it adding up, averaging out, adding up, averaging out. Okay, so that's exactly what is this particular theory is all about. This is how Pearson R would be calculated. Okay. There is another formula, as I said, which is just a mathematically derived formula out of this. Okay, so um, so we talked about unreliability, we talked about all these things. So this is the raw score, calculating the raw score. This is nothing different from whatever the other formula is, but this is only mathematically arranged it in a different way, so that you don't really require so many columns. You can just end up having 3 columns and then find it out. But somehow I feel that way is much more easy to remember, because for me remembering this formula is much more tougher than whatever the way that is put in the other equation. So I rather prefer to solve on the other end, but it is up to the convenience of people whether they want to do it in this particular way or that particular way. It is just a different formula for it. Okay, so that is all about Pearson R. Okay, so we covered block to unit 1 and some small part of. So pausing here, any questions until now?
Mr. Praveen, I just wanted to ask you one thing. Just now you said you can use either this raw formula or the previous one which you explained. Are
Yes.
they going to give us the same values? Are like they will tell us like you have to use particular this method and you have to solve this, or it's according to us that we are going to take the decision?
I mean, at least by seeing whatever the assignment, they might really ask you to calculate PSNR and not worry about raw formula or main formula. Is what my understanding is, but that
No, no,
we have to
no,
see
I'm
the
not
papers and
asking
then.
for the examination part of you. I'm just asking you, when both formulas are giving the same values, why do we have two formulas?
Because it is easy to arrange in your table. So remember, in the other table you are calculating mean, and then you are calculating x minus x dash. So you are making more
Mm-hmm.
calculations when you are using the other
Mm-hmm.
formula. So here you can reduce
Mm-hmm.
the calculations, because you
Right.
already deduced few things and then trying to actually find out. It is only that if you remember the raw formula, I mean the last one, whatever the formula that is derived, then you might calculate correlation in a faster way, because you don't really have to make so many calculations.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is only
Yeah.
the convenience factor. But you will have to remember that particular formula. That's all it is. Okay. And
Yeah.
one more
Thank you.
point which I missed on casuality. So basically, this is a last point which I just missed on telling about the casuality. So correlation not necessarily indicate casuality. So basically, when I say
It's
X and
I,
Y,
I, I I read similar. I think it's causality. I also read it as casuality, but it is causality.
causality. Yeah, sorry for my English there, causality. Uh, so basically, uh, here what it means is X and Y are correlated is what correlation is telling. But it doesn't tell whether X is causing Y or Y is causing X, or both and XY are just related because there is some other third variable which is trying to influence both X and Y. So it really doesn't tell about that particular thing. When somebody says X and Y are having a correlation of 0.6, 0.7, it doesn't really talk about what is causing what. Okay, there are other ways it means to find out or try to actually see the causes or verify it. But correlation is not really telling the causes. That's exactly what you will have to understand. So Okay, so I think rest of the unit is covered. So any questions? No questions means either I'm perfectly, I'm able to convince all of the people.
You
or
made it
else-
very simple, Mr. Praveen. That was,
Thank you.
that's why we don't have any question.
Praveen, one question I have. Sorry. The thing is,
Yeah.
before covariance, is there any other R parameter calculation, or with correlation only, covariance only, or calculation will be there?
So Pearson R really is dependent on covariance. So R, if you are talking about in general correlation, there are other techniques where covariance might not really be calculated. There are other ways of calculating R. But when we are talking in the context of Pearson R, then we are talking about covariance. We are talking about calculating the covariance and then coming to that solution.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So if no questions, I think we are already 6 minutes past 10, so we can probably close it for today. And then talk about other correlation in our next class. Spearman correlation, I think, is the next unit. So the next unit 2 is all talking about Spearman correlation, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, that is another way of calculating the correlation. But the concept of correlation and comparing two variables really remains same. It does have its own assumptions, its own way to actually calculate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for the class, Praveen. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Praveen.
Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you.